differences between types of markers. I have Winsor Newton Pro markers here. I have Prismacolor. This one is a warm gray. Would you just hand me a different Prismacolor marker? They're the ones that look like that. Just any, yep, any color. Thanks. Prismacolor, the Blick Studio, the Copics. Copics are really nice. They're one of the more expensive brands. Let's use that one since it's a slightly different color. And then there are other markers. There are the Faber-Castell Pit Artist Pen Brushes. I actually really, really like these. There's also the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer brand has, this is just a dual marker. They do have a watercolor marker that you can blend using water. So that is another option. We had people who really like these, and you can use them on marker paper, but you blend them just with a water brush, which I can show you. I'm just going to do some swatching on this paper over here so that you can kind of see differences between the brands. And then these are all going to be quite a bit different than something like a Crayola marker, just because the pigments are typically, they come in a wider range of colors, and they're typically a higher quality pigment. So your Crayola marker is going to fade before one of these will. Not to say that there aren't, there are people who do amazing art with Crayola, and with student grade or grade school markers. So the Winsor Newton Pro markers, if I remember correctly, these ones have a different alcohol solution in them, and they're smellier. Yeah, they have a different smell than the other ones. So they lay down pretty nicely. They're not super streaky. In fact, even if I try to layer it, it doesn't get that streaky. Streakiness is kind of to get rid of it, you have to find the perfect marriage between your marker and your paper. This paper takes markers pretty well, and I like it quite a bit. I think it's the Bien thing. We'll have to double check that. So that is the Copic. The Copic actually with this paper I think is more streaky. Although sometimes it's just the pigment too. This is the Blick marker. That looks way darker than it is. And then the Prismacolor is probably going to be our streakiest here. But also these are very old. Oh, actually that one looks really nice. These are over 10 years old. So as long as you keep your caps on and you treat them nice, they will last. Once again, I don't like markers, so I don't use it that much though. And then the brush pens, I really like, but they are a much smaller little tip. But they're still a marker. And then I have, this is a permanent marker, so this is closer to your Sharpie. I probably should have grabbed a color other than black so that we could see if it layered nicely. I think that's most of the different kinds of markers I have here tonight. Oh, there's one more, which I don't even think you can get anymore. So this might be kind of like a moot point. I fell for the marketing and was like, ooh, I'll try the Pantone markers. They're weird. So you initially get that laid down, but I know with at least one of them, we found that the color varied, I think it's the pink one, varied significantly depending on which end you were using, which was weird. These ones go spottier on this paper than any other of the markers that I have. The Blick you have to deal with like a little bit more streaking, although this is a really dark pigment, so that might be one of the issues. And they're pretty much all interchangeable. They all use some sort of alcohol base, and they're all alcohol soluble. So you can collect willy-nilly all over the place. What I like to do is in my studio, I used to have, and I need to make a new one because it's more like 15 years old, the one that I made where I swatched all of my markers and labeled them nicely, and they had started to fade at that point. So marker is not as archival of a solution. In the digital age, as long as you get really good photographs or scans of your work, maybe that doesn't matter as much. Like, you might not need an archival version of your work. And then, well, I'll just show you the water brush without the, I really like these water brushes because they have the brush end and then they have a fine tip end, which is like a micron pen. The Pro markers also have a fine tip end, but it's more just like a fine marker tip. And so do most of the Prismacolors. I think I have a couple Prismacolors that do have a brush tip on them, and I don't know if it's in lieu of the fine or if it's in lieu of the chisel broad tip. A lot of the brands you can buy replacement tips for your markers as well, so that's nice. And that does mean that if it's originally chisel tip and you never use chisel tip, you probably can switch it out to be the brush. So I keep a sheet like this, and ideally I would have been labeling these as I swatch them, or I would swatch them nicely and label them for a reference. Let's go back to a few other techniques in another video.